Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. As if on cue, the waitress appeared with 2 tall glasses of virulently blue liquid, complete with bendy straws. Jason shot her a triumphant smirk as he pushed one over. "Blue raspberry fierce, the superior flavor," he said loftily. "And before you argue, yes, that's a scientific fact." "Excuse you, everyone knows fruit punch is the GOAT Gatorade," Andrea shot back, taking a dainty sip. The candy-sweet flavor burst over her tongue, and she barely suppressed a grimace. Ugh, this stuff was vile. What did jocks see in it? Jason laughed, the sound warm and inviting. "A fruit punch fan? Shoulda known you'd have terrible taste, Pipsqueak." Andrea bristled on reflex before catching the teasing glint in his eye. Was that fondness? Surely not. She slouched back in the booth, appraising him over the rim of her glass. "So, you got me here," she said coolly. "What's your endgame? Am I just another tally mark for your little black book?" To her surprise, Jason actually looked affronted. "Okay, ouch. You really think I'm that much of a dog?" He shook his head, rueful. "I thought we were having fun. You know, witty repartee, playful jabs, all that rom-com jazz." What?" Andrea floundered, thrown by his apparent sincerity. This was not how she expected this to go. Where was the smug preening, the gross innuendo? Who was this reasonable, mature-sounding human, and what had he done with Jason Cooper? She'd severely underestimated his acting chops. This sensitive soul shtick was better than anything she and Kyle had rehearsed. Time to up the ante. Andrea summoned a few crocodile tears, letting her chin wobble artfully. "Can you blame me for being wary?" she sniffled, dabbing daintily at her dry eyes with a napkin. "I've seen how you operate, Jason. You collect pretty airheads like Pokemon cards just to stoke your own ego. What makes me any different?" She braced herself for irritation, even anger at her words. After all, what self-respecting meathead could resist the siren song of a damsel in distress? He'd try to comfort her, assure her that no, really baby, she was special, not like those other girls. Hook, line, and sinker. Andrea struggled to hide a smirk, keeping her expression wounded but hopeful. Any minute now, she'd have him eating out of the palm of her hand. Jason studied her for a long moment, something unreadable flickering in his stupidly pretty eyes. Then he sighed, scrubbing a hand over his face. "I'm not gonna sit here and claim I'm some kind of saint," he said evenly. "I like pretty girls. I don't always think with my brain. But I'm not a total scumbag, Andrea. I don't use people." He leaned forward, elbows on the table, gaze intent on hers. "The truth is, I like you. You're funny and sharp, and you call me on my bullshit. It's refreshing." A wry smile tugged at his lips. "Not to mention, you totally schooled me on the court today. That's funny." Andrea gaped at him, heat rushing to her cheeks. That sounded suspiciously genuine. Since when was Jason Cooper introspective and emotionally intelligent? This had to be a trick. A trap to lull her into a false sense of security before he pounced. So where was the pounce? He just kept looking at her with those soulful eyes, all open and earnest like a sad golden retriever. It made something in her chest squirm. "Get it together, Andy," she scolded herself. "He's an actor, and a good one at that. This is all part of his game. Remember the plan." Right. The plan. Andrea gave herself a mental shake, refocusing on her goal. She just needed to keep him talking for a few more minutes until Kyle made his grand entrance. She summoned a watery smile. "I want to believe you, Jason. I really do." Andrea reached across the table to lay her hand over his, giving it what she hoped was a comforting squeeze. "But I've been burned before. How do I know this isn't just another conquest for you?" She made sure to keep her tone a carefully crafted mix of vulnerable and challenging, daring him to prove her wrong. "Come on, Cooper. Tell me what I want to hear. Profess your undying devotion so I can laugh in your stupid, handsome face." Jason's brow furrowed as he considered her words. For a second, Andrea thought she had him. He'd make some grand declaration, go all in on the sensitive jock charade, and she'd feign a flattered blush before excusing herself to the restroom. But then he surprised her yet again. Turning his hand under hers, he laced their fingers together and held on tight. "I get it," he said quietly. "You have no reason to trust me. I haven't exactly been a saint." His thumb rubbed soothing circles over her knuckles, sending traitorous shivers down her spine. "But I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove that you and me, it's different." He ducked his head to catch her gaze, a small, hopeful smile on his unfairly lips. "I like you, Andrea. The real you, snark and all. And if you'll let me, I'd like to show you that I can be more than just some dumb jock." Andrea's heart lurched in her chest, breath catching somewhere in her throat. Oh no. This was not part of the plan at all. He was supposed to be shallow and arrogant, not all genuine and sweet. Curse Jason Cooper and his stupid, beautiful face. Curse his gentle hands and sincere words. Curse this inconvenient fluttering in her belly that felt suspiciously like butterflies. This was wrong. It was all wrong. Andrea's palms started to sweat where they lay clasped with his, a rising tide of panic clawing at her throat. She had to abort the mission before she did something insane like actually fall for his act. With a Herculean effort, she pulled her hands free of his and slid out of the booth on wobbly legs. I need a minute," she stammered, avoiding his confused gaze. "Restroom." Andrea didn't wait for a reply, spinning on her heel and tottering away as fast as her stupid, strappy heels would allow. She didn't dare look back, terrified of what she might see on Jason's far too beautiful face. It took every ounce of willpower not to simply bolt out the diner door and into the night. But she had to find Kyle, had to regroup and figure out their next move. This was not how it was supposed to go. How dare Jason blindside her with actual maturity and emotional depth? It was a dirty, rotten trick, and she'd fallen for it like a total sucker. "Kyle!" she hissed as she burst into the cramped hallway that housed the restrooms. "Code red! I need you!" But the hallway was empty save for some tacky wallpaper and an inept potted fern. Where the hell was he? Just then, the men's room door swung open and a tall, gangly figure stumbled out amidst a cloud of floral air freshener. I'm here, Kyle wheezed, adjusting his Clark Kent glasses. "What's the emergency?" Andrea grabbed his arms, fingernails digging in sharply. "The emergency is that your timing sucks," she growled. "Did you fall in? I've been drowning out there." "Whoa, hey, retract the claws." Kyle shook her off with a wounded look, rubbing at his abused biceps. "I got stuck in the window, okay? These stupid skinny jeans are a menace." It was only then that Andrea actually registered his appearance. Kyle had really committed to the bit. At any other time, she might have laughed herself silly at the sight, but she was too keyed up to even muster a smirk, still reeling from whatever the hell had just happened with Jason. "Never mind your wardrobe malfunction," she snapped. "We have bigger problems. The plan is falling apart." "What? Why?" Kyle frowned. "I thought you had him wrapped around your little finger." "So did I." Andrea threw up her hands, agitated. "But he's not following the script. He's being all genuine and vulnerable." She shuddered. Kyle just blinked at her. "I don't follow." Andrea huffed, blowing a stray curl off her forehead. "He's not being a cocky dirtbag, Kyle. He's talking about his feelings, asking for a chance to prove he's not like other guys." She made exaggerated air quotes with a sneer. To her annoyance, Kyle did not look appropriately appalled by this development. If anything, he seemed almost amused. "Let me get this straight," he said slowly. "Jason Cooper is acting like an actual mature human being and treating you with respect, and you're mad about it?" Well, when he put it like that, it sounded stupid. Andrea scowled at him. "Yes, I mean, no! She smacked his arm. It's a trick, Kyle. He's trying to get in my head. Or maybe, Kyle said gently, he actually likes you. Is that so hard to believe? Yes, Andrea cried, flinging up her hands. Look at me, Kyle. I'm not a real girl. I'm Andrew the androgynous. This whole thing is a sham. Kyle frowned, shaking his head. Andy, come on. That's not true, and you know it. He gripped her shoulders, ducking to meet her eyes intently. You're still you, no matter what you look like on the outside. And maybe Jason is seeing that. Andrea stared at him, mouth hanging open unattractively. What are you saying? She whispered, suddenly terrified to hear his answer. Kyle's eyes softened, a sad smile tugging at his mouth. I'm saying maybe this whole revenge scheme was a mistake. Maybe, just maybe, you like him too. The real him. What? No, Andrea jerked back, shaking her head vehemently. That's crazy! I don't like Jason Cooper. He's an obnoxious dog. But even as the words left her mouth, Andrea felt a sickening swoop of doubt. Images flashed through her mind unbidden. Jason's earnest hazel eyes, his gentle fingers laced with hers, the hopeful lilt of his voice as he asked for a chance. That wasn't the Jason Cooper she knew and loathed. That Jason was a fiction, a cardboard cutout of every high school bully and date rapist in waiting she'd ever met. The Jason sitting in that diner booth, laying his heart on the line? He was something else entirely. Andrea took a deep, shuddering breath, trying to calm the frantic butterflies in her stomach. Kyle's words echoed in her head, a disorienting soundtrack to her own chaotic thoughts. Could he be right? Was she really falling for Jason Cooper of all people? It seemed impossible, laughable even. He was everything she despised, a dumb jock, a player, a walking cliché. Except he wasn't. Not really. The Jason she'd seen tonight, the one who looked at her with such warmth and sincerity, who spoke of wanting to be better, to prove himself. That Jason was someone new, someone intriguing, someone she maybe wanted to know better. Andrea groaned, massaging her temples. When had her life become such a cliched teen drama? She was supposed to be the snarky sidekick, not the love-struck lead. I can't believe I'm doing this, she muttered, squaring her shoulders. She shot Kyle a wry look. If this blows up in my face, I'm blaming you. Kyle just grinned, giving her a double thumbs up. Go get him, Tiger. I've got your back. Yeah. Andrea waved him off, turning back towards the diner proper. Wish me luck, or a swift death, whichever comes first. Ignoring Kyle's snort, she tottered back out on her stupid heels, scanning the room for Jason's stupid, handsome head. She spotted him almost immediately, still sitting in their booth with a worried crease between his brows. He looked up as she approached, relief washing over his features. Hey, I was starting to think you'd bailed on me. And give you the satisfaction? Never. Andrea slid back into her seat with as much grace as she could muster, which admittedly wasn't much. An awkward silence descended as they stared at each other, the easy banter from before replaced by a crackling tension. Andrea licked her lips nervously, trying to find the right words. So, she began, wincing internally at her own brilliance. Way to dazzle him with your wit, Andy. About before... Jason held up a hand, cutting her off. It's fine, he said with a small, self-deprecating smile. I came on too strong. I get it. You barely know me, and here I am spouting off about feelings and second chances. He huffed a laugh, shaking his head. I blame the Gatorade. Blue Raspberry Fierce makes me chatty. Despite herself, Andrea felt her lips twitch. Damn him and his charming self-awareness. It would be so much easier to hate him if he'd just stick to the script. Actually, she said slowly, steeling herself, I wanted to apologize. Jason blinked, clearly taken aback. For what? For jumping to conclusions, for assuming the worst of you without giving you a chance to prove otherwise. Andrea twisted her fingers together nervously in her lap. The truth is, I've spent so long seeing you as this one-dimensional stereotype in my head, I never bothered to look deeper. She risked a glance up at him through her lashes. But I'd like to. If you'll still have me after I acted like a total basket case. For a long moment, Jason just stared at her, an inscrutable look in his hazel eyes. Then, slowly, a grin spread across his unfairly handsome face. Andrea Sachs, are you asking me out? What? No! Andrea flushed, feeling wrong-footed. Trust him to throw her off her game with a single sentence. I mean, not exactly. I just thought maybe we could hang out sometime. As friends, or whatever. Ugh, could she be any more lame? She was totally blowing this. Abort. Abort. But Jason didn't look put off by her sudden onset of verbal diarrhea. If anything, his grin widened, eyes sparkling with mirth. I'd like that, he said sincerely. Hanging out as friends, or whatever. He winked. Oh, hell. That damn wink was going to be the death of her. How was it possible to find someone so irritating and so attractive at the same time? Great, Andrea said weakly. That's great. An uncomfortable silence fell as they searched for something, anything else to say. Andrea cast about desperately for a safe topic, but her mind was infuriatingly blank. Where was all her patented snark and sass when she needed it? So, nice weather we're having, Jason said, eyes dancing with mirth. That startled a laugh out of her, the sound only slightly tinged with hysteria. Really? That's what you're going with? The weather? Jason spread his hands with a shrug. Hey, I panicked. You were giving me the crazy eyes. I had to say something to break the tension. I do not have crazy eyes, Andrea huffed, fighting a smile. Damn him. Do too. I thought you were going to leap across the table and throttle me for a second there. Maybe I should have, she shot back. Put us both out of our misery. He laughed, the sound warm and rich, and Andrea felt herself relax in spite of herself. This was okay. They were okay. Just two sort of friends, hanging out, bantering. She could do this. Then Jason surprised her again, his expression sobering into something soft and serious. I really am glad you came tonight, Andy, he said quietly. Megan told me what she did, with the makeover and all. Andrea's blood ran cold, a sick dread pooling in her stomach. Oh, God. He knew. He knew this was all a setup, a ploy for petty high school revenge, and to make matters worse, he thought she was pathetic enough to go along with it. Humiliation burned through her, heat stinging her eyes and closing up her throat. I can explain, she croaked, though really, what could she possibly say? I didn't. It wasn't. Hey, it's okay. Jason reached across the table again, gently prying her white-knuckled hands apart to twine their fingers together. I'm not mad, Andy. I get it. Wait, what? Andrea gaped at him, uncomprehending. He wasn't mad? He got it? Got what exactly? But I lied to you, she said weakly. This isn't… She gestured helplessly to her dolled-up appearance. Me. Understanding dawned in Jason's eyes, chased by something achingly tender. He squeezed her hands. Isn't it, though? He asked softly. So you got a makeover. So what? You're still Andrea. Still the same smart, snarky, passionate girl I've been crushing on for months. His lips quirked wryly. The hair and clothes are just window dressing. Andrea stared at him, heat blooming in her chest and rushing to her cheeks. He'd been crushing on her for months, before Megan's meddling and the revenge scheme from hell. You like me? She croaked, hating how small and vulnerable she sounded. The real me? I'm more than like you, Jason admitted, a becoming flush staining his cheeks. I'm kind of crazy about you, Andy. Have been since that day in the cafeteria when you accidentally spilled meatloaf surprise down Craig Tucker's back for making fun of your sneakers. A startled laugh bubbled out of her. She remembered that day. Remembered the burning humiliation and impotent fury as Craig and his gaggle of goons pointed and laughed at her beat-up old chucks. remembered the vicious satisfaction she'd felt watching him squeal and flail as gravy dripped down his neck. And Jason had seen that? Had remembered it all this time later? Maybe she wasn't the only one guilty of not looking deeper. "For the record," she said, voice wobbling only slightly, "I like you too. The dumb jock with hidden depths." He beamed at her, and Andrea's heart turned over in her chest. Oh no, she was in trouble. Big, swoony, rom-com level trouble. "So," Jason drawled, eyes alight with boyish mischief, "does this mean we're upgrading from hanging out as friends to something a little more first date adjacent?" Andrea pretended to consider it, lips pursed. "I don't know," she mused. "I have my standards. I can't just date any cute boy who offers to split a plate of cheese fries with me." "Excuse you, who said anything about sharing?" Jason retorted with mock affront. "Get your own cheese fries, woman." She kicked him under the table, unable to suppress a giddy grin. "Some gentleman you are. I see how it is. Guess you'll have to find some other way to impress me." I'm sure I'll think of something." The wicked sparkle in his eye made her toes curl in her strappy heels. Oh yeah, big trouble. Just then, a loud crash sounded from the hall leading to the bathrooms, followed by a yelp and a familiar voice cursing up a blue streak. Andrea winced. Kyle. She'd almost forgotten about his lurking presence in the midst of all the emotional whiplash. Jason glanced towards the commotion, one brow arched. Should we?" "No," Andrea said quickly. "Trust me, we're better off not knowing." There was a beat of silence, broken by what sounded suspiciously like the scrape and clatter of a body trying to wrestle itself through a too-small window. Andrea closed her eyes briefly. Scratch that. Kyle was the one in big trouble. Just wait until she got her hands on him and his ludicrous disguise. But that was a problem for future Andrea. Right now, she had more important things to focus on, like the cute boy holding her hands and smiling at her like she hung the moon. "You know," she said conversationally, "there's a 24-hour diner down the street that makes the best chocolate milkshakes in 3 counties. If you play your cards right, I might even let you steal a sip." "Oh, really?" Jason leaned in, eyes sparkling. "And what do I have to do to earn such an honor?" Andrea pursed her lips, pretending to think about it. "Well, you can start by telling me more about this secret crush of yours. I want to hear all about how you pined for me from afar like a total loser." "Okay, first of all, I don't pine," Jason said, affronted. "I observed respectfully from a distance like the gentleman I am." "Uh-huh, sure. And secondly," he barreled on, ignoring her amused scoff, "who says it was one-sided? According to Kyle, you've been scoping out my assets on the court for months now." It was Andrea's turn to splutter, cheeks flushing scarlet. "I have not," she squeaked. "Kyle is a dirty, lying liar who lies." Jason just smirked, eyes dancing. "Whatever you say, Pipsqueak." "Ugh, don't call me that," Andrea grumbled half-heartedly. "I'm not that short. You're literally pocket-sized." "Am not." "Are too. I could pick you up and put you in my shirt pocket." "Okay, you know what?" Andrea brandished a menu threateningly, fighting to keep a straight face. "One more word and I'm upgrading my milkshake order to a large out of spite." Jason mimed zipping his lips, eyes wide with exaggerated fear. She threw a sugar packet at his head. And just like that, they fell into their easy rhythm of banter and ribbing, the lingering tension dissipating like morning mist. As she laughed at Jason's dramatic foray of being pelted with artificial sweetener, Andrea felt something settle in her chest, a missing puzzle piece finally slotting into place. This was right. This was good. This ridiculous out-of-nowhere connection with the last person she'd ever expected. She didn't know what the future held, if she and Jason would crash and burn or defy the odds. But sitting there, grinning at his silly faces and arguing over French fry toppings, Andrea found she didn't much care. For the first time in a long time, she was ready to just be, to enjoy the moment without worrying about the ending. And if that moment involved holding hands with a cute boy who liked her for her, well, she would never change back the magic spell. With a soft, secret smile, Andrea laced her fingers more firmly with Jason's and squeezed. He squeezed back, hazel eyes warm and knowing. Yeah, she could definitely work with this. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.